My Auntie Elena is 40, a world-traveling photographer who always seemed to live a life separate from the rest of our boring family. I'm Julian, 22, and I've spent every Christmas and summer looking for her in the crowd. This year, I'm house-sitting her mountain estate while she works on her new book. I thought I'd be alone, but when I walked into the kitchen at midnight, she was standing there in a silk robe, a glass of red wine in her hand. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Would you follow the family rules, or follow her? The mountains are cold, but this house is heating up. Elena was always the mysterious one. She has this way of looking at you like she's capturing a photo of your soul. For years, I felt her gaze linger on me during family dinners. A silent communication that felt way too mature for a nephew. Now, we're trapped in a snowstorm, and the power is flickering. She's been mentoring me on my photography, but today, she wasn't looking at the camera. She was looking at the way my shirt fit over my shoulders. "You've changed, Julian," she said, her voice dropping an octave. "You're not the boy who used to hide in my darkroom anymore." The fireplace was the only source of light. I was sitting on the rug, sorting through her old prints, when she sat down right next to me. The scent of wood smoke and expensive perfume filled the air. She reached out to fix my collar, but her hand stayed there, her thumb grazing the pulse in my neck. "Is this wrong?" I whispered, my heart hammering against my ribs. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned in until I could feel the heat of her breath. "Wrong is a word people use when they're afraid of what they actually want," she murmured. She stood up and walked toward the master suite, pausing at the arched doorway. She didn't look back, but she left the door slightly ajar, a silent invitation that felt like a dare. I stood there in the shadows of the hallway for what felt like hours. The silence of the snowstorm outside pressing in on me. I knew that if I crossed that threshold, there was no going back. I wasn't her nephew anymore. I was a man making a choice. I pushed the door open. She was standing by the window, watching the snow. When she turned, her eyes were dark with the hunger she'd been hiding for a decade. I didn't say a word. I just pulled her into a kiss that tasted like wine and years of what ifs. It was sophisticated, desperate, and electric. She led me to the oversized velvet bed, the firelight from the other room casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. "Tonight," she whispered against my skin, "we aren't family. We're just two people who finally stopped running." Every touch was a breakthrough. Her experience meeting my fire in a way that made the rest of our family history vanish. Just as the tension reached its peak, my phone on the nightstand started vibrating violently. It was a FaceTime call from my mother, Elena's sister. The screen lit up the room, showing a picture of the three of us from 5 years ago. Elena froze, her hands still tangled in my hair. "Don't answer it," she breathed, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and desire. But then, we heard a heavy thud on the front porch. A voice shouted through the wind, "Julian, Elena, it's the police. Your mother called in a welfare check because of the storm. Open up." The tension of the storm meets the reality of the outside world, forcing a fine, life-changing decision. The blue and red lights were pulsing against the snow outside the window, casting a frantic glow over Elena's bedroom. My mother, her sister, had sent the police for a welfare check, and we were currently breaking every family rule ever written. Like and subscribe to see how we escaped the scandal. Would you have hidden in the closet, or walked out together? "Julian, get into the bathroom now," Elena whispered, her voice a mix of terror and command. She threw her silk robe on and smoothed her hair in the mirror, her hands shaking. I scrambled into the ensuite, pressing my back against the cold tile just as I heard the heavy thud of the front door opening. "Officer, I'm so sorry." The storm knocked out the landline. I heard Elena say, her professional voice perfectly in place. "Julian is fine. He's just sleeping off a fever in the guest wing. I'll tell my sister we're safe." I held my breath for what felt like an eternity, until the heavy boots finally retreated and the front door clicked shut. The silence that followed was heavy. Elena leaned against the bathroom door, her eyes closed. "We can't do this, Julian. If they had walked in, if your mother knew." I walked out and took her hands in mine. "But they didn't, and she doesn't." "Elena, you said, wrong is just a word for people who are afraid. Are you afraid?" She looked at me, the mysterious aunt facade completely crumbling. I've been afraid for 10 years, Julian. Afraid that if I touched you, I'd never be able to let go. The next morning, the sun came out, turning the mountain into a world of blinding white crystal. My mother called, her voice frantic over the speakerphone. I'm coming up there to get you, Julian. The roads are clearing. Elena looked at the phone, then at me. She picked up her Leica camera, the one she used to capture the world's secrets, and handed it to me. I'm not going back to the city, Julian. I'm moving to my studio in Italy. I have a flight from the regional airport in 2 hours. She paused, her heart in her eyes. There's an extra seat, but if you take it, the family, they'll never look at us the same way again. We didn't wait for my mother's car to round the mountain bend. We packed one bag each and left a note on the kitchen table that simply said, "We're safe. Don't look for us." That first night in the villa in Tuscany was the first time we breathed without looking over our shoulders. The stone walls were warm, and the scent of lemon trees replaced the wood smoke. In the quiet of our new home, the aunt and nephew labels didn't exist. There was only the weight of her body against mine, and the realization that we had finally stopped being a secret. Every touch was slow, deliberate, and free. I watched the sunrise over the vineyards, realizing that some photos are meant to be private, and some lives are meant to be lived far away from the rules of home. It's been 6 months. We've changed our names, and we spend our days traveling the coast, capturing the world through our lenses. My mother still sends emails, but Elena hasn't opened them yet. Yesterday, while we were sitting at a cafe in Positano, she leaned over and kissed me in the bright afternoon sun. "Any regrets, Julian?" she asked. I looked at the woman who had been my mystery for a decade and was now my reality. "Only one," I said, pulling her closer, "that we didn't get snowed in 10 years ago." Our story started with a locked darkroom and ended in the Italian sun. We didn't just survive the storm, we found our way out of the shadows. We thought 6,000 miles was enough distance. We thought a new language and a villa in Tuscany would bury the scandal. But as I sat in a small cafe in Florence with Elena, a shadow fell over our table. I looked up, and my heart stopped. My mother, Elena's sister, was standing there, clutching a folder of private investigator photos. This is the final chapter of our forbidden story. Like and subscribe to see if our love survived the ultimate guilt trip. "So, this is where you've been hiding," my mother whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of fury and heartbreak. She threw the photos onto the marble table, grainy shots of us walking, hand in hand through the vineyards, kissing on the balcony, living a life that was never meant for us. Elena didn't hide. She didn't pull her hand away from mine. She sat up straight, the power attorney steel returning to her eyes. "Sit down, Clara," Elena said calmly. "If you've come all this way, you deserve the truth, not just the photos." The next 3 hours were a blur of tears and revelations. My mother screamed about betrayal and family honor. But then Elena dropped the bombshell. "You want to talk about betrayal, Clara? Let's talk about why you sent Julian to stay with me in the first place. You knew I loved him years ago. You thought if I saw him as a man, I'd finally be normal and move on. You used us as a social experiment." The silence that followed was deafening. My mother crumbled, realizing that the scandal she was fighting was a fire she had accidentally helped light. "Julian, come home," my mother pleaded, reaching for my arm. "We can tell everyone you were just traveling. We can fix this." I looked at Elena, then back at my mother. I saw the life I used to have, the rules, the expectations, the hiding. Then I looked at the woman who had traded her reputation for my heart. "I am home, Mom," I said firmly. "Elena isn't just my aunt anymore. She's my partner, and if you can't accept that, then you aren't just losing a sister, you're losing a son." My mother left that evening, heading back to the airport alone. The weight that had been sitting on our chests for months finally lifted. That night, under the Mediterranean stars, the intimacy felt different. It wasn't about the thrill of the forbidden anymore. It was about the peace of being known. Elena traced the line of my jaw as we lay in the oversized linen bed, the doors to the balcony wide open. "We're really alone now," she whispered. "No more investigators. No more sisters. Just us." I pulled her closer, the scent of lemon trees and salt air filling the room. "Good," I replied. I've waited 22 years for just us. The screen fades to a montage of our new life. Julian is a successful photographer now, his work featured in galleries across Europe. Elena is his manager, her sharp mind finally used for something that makes her happy. The final shot is of the two of them on a boat in Positano, the sun setting behind them. There's no voiceover, just the sound of the waves and the look in their eyes. The rules didn't break them. They broke the rules to find each other.